Kennedy Cook, the current chair of the Macomb Agricultural Preservation Fund, Macomb Agricultural Purchase and Development Rights Committee in Macomb County of the 6 northern townships. And I wish to welcome everyone here for this event. The PDR committee was created by the townships of Armada, Bruce, Lennox, Ray, Richmond, and Washington Township in around 2003 year. We would not be here if it wasn't for the insight of the townships back at that time, who were kind of concerned about the way development was happening in the county. These northern 6 townships had the majority or main parts of the ag land in the county. And at that time, it was disappearing real quick. So it was about the mid-1990s when Mark Falker and Jim Fuerstenau first brought up the issue about farmland preservation with the landowners and township officials. Some of those were the past board members, Fred Batarkowitz, Keith Ringer, Gordon Fuerstenau, Monica Joe, Charles Bohm, Karen Ottenbacher, Bob Zelka, Abby Jacobson, and others. Now, I just want to stress, and I've said this a number of times, this PDR committee is not a means to try and stop development. It is a means to enhance and probably have another avenue for trying to preserve farmland in Macomb County, depending on what the property owners want to do. So, when we got around to doing it, we approached the county commissioners way back in the 90s about addressing this issue, and we were led with Don Brown, who joined the effort to help us out. But my first person I'd like to have come up to possibly make a statement to that, and the means would be Richmond Township Supervisor Christy Voss. Chris, would you care to come up?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out to our little slice of heaven on the northeast part of Macomb County today. Very excited to see something like this happening again here in the township. And it's real special to see somebody like the Fuerstenau family to have so many deep roots in our community enter into this type of program. And I hope to see more families out here doing the same thing. Really special thanks to Kathleen, Fontaine, and Burns, and everybody for all their really hard work. I know this is a lengthy process and they had their share of challenges. And I just thank everybody and thank you again for your support and thank you for taking the time today.
Thanks, Chris. Now, as I mentioned, we were working with the county and the townships to come up with the ordinance and means for addressing this issue, which is part of the programs that the state of Michigan has. And with some of the guidance in that, we were new at. One of the other persons we had who was with us from the beginning and is currently with us yet today, and that is County Commissioner and Chair of the Board of Commissioners, Don Brown, who kind of helped us through some of these things and work. With Don's help, we had access to the County Planning Department Director, Steve Casson at the time, along with Don Mordini, John Paulia, and Jack Johns. Another major aid came from Macomb, Michigan State University Extension with Marilyn Brzezinski, Hannah Stevens, Terry Gibb, in helping us form the ordinances and means for doing this. Also, through the County Planning Department, we had help from Maria Sardis, who with MSU Extension helped us get our first grant, $15,000 grant, which we had matching funds to go for, to do our first purchase, which was here in Richmond Township, Montgomery property. So, Don, would you care to come? tell us your story.
This is a very special day. I'm so proud of everyone that's been involved in this process since the beginning. You know, I was reflecting coming over here, and you know, it was 35 years ago that this young guy from Washington Township showed up in the Richmond Township offices and met FARMLAND for the first time, Jim McKernan. And I said, I want to be county commissioner out here, and I appreciate you showing me around. And they did. And they showed me their ag operations and all the things that were going on. And over the years, they taught me, along with their son Jim, who I became friends with, about the importance of agriculture and the business and how important it is in Macomb County, as well as the state of Michigan. And I'll never forget how warm and friendly they were and open to me, because I was a young kid from Warren. I didn't know much about agriculture, but look where it's led me. I'm still representing agriculture communities, work with Candace and her in Congress, representing the thumb and looking out after agricultural interests. And so I understand the importance of agriculture to everyone, and it's to benefit everyone in the county. As Ken mentioned, in the mid-90s, when Macomb County was booming, everyone wanted to get a piece of Macomb County, but they were gobbling up a lot of farmland. And a group of farmers and ag interests came together and formed, what can we do to slow it down and address it? Because it was all brand new to us. We didn't know where to begin. But we met in Ray Township Hall in small meetings, and over time, we went around the entire county advocating for agricultural preservation to try to get the county's attention. And eventually we did. And that led us to the creation of the Purchase and Development Rights Committee. We put the coalition of townships together and got before the old Board of Commissioners who were running the county at the time. And fortunately, you know, the county executive coming in, and Mark Hackle took over, and he continued that legacy. And we're so grateful to have a county executive that cares about agriculture the way our county executive, Mark Hackle, does. But that coalition that we put together actually won an award for Southeast Michigan for agricultural preservation efforts. And we were off and running. But it took us a long time. And the state program, like everything else. In fact, I was appointed by Governor Ringer at the time to be on the state's creation of the Ag Fund Authority that they put together, which we're receiving benefit today. And there's a lot of competition for these parcels. It's not easy to get, and it takes a long time. But again, thanks to all the people that have been involved, long meetings, everyone, we deserve credit for this. And I've got a list of recognition I'm going to give to the FARMLAND from the County Board of Commissioners, and it's a tribute just recognizing the FARMLAND family for placing their property in the state Purchase and Development Rights Program. And it goes on and on, but that's basically what it says, and I won't read it all for everyone, but it's on behalf of the Board of Commissioners recognizing and marking this important day for the county, because this land will now be in preservation for future generations. When we're long gone, this farm will still be here, producing agriculture, because we don't have any more, we don't make any more ground in this country. Agriculture is necessary for all of us, for the production for ourselves. The country can't sustain itself, it can't feed itself. And this farm is going to help us do that. And fortunately for us here in Macomb County, we've got access to all of it. You know, Macomb County is the #1 value-added ag producer in the state. Many people don't realize that, because there's a lot of things to spin off of agriculture than just growing the crops. And it's done right here in Macomb County. In Michigan, agriculture is the #2 industry in the state. Auto industry is 1, but the ag industry is the 2nd. And that's something we can all take pride of. And it's going on right here in Macomb County, in northern Macomb County, and right here in Richmond. And we appreciate that. And this property is going to help continue that. So, Phyllis, I'm so glad to be here to do this for us and to continue on. And in memory of Gordon and Jim McKernan and all those that came before us, they're looking down, smiling down on this day and going, all right, we did it all right. And so I look forward to working with you and everyone else as we continue to go forward to get more parcels involved. There's more land that needs to get into the program, and it's good for everyone. It's good for the residents who live around the agriculture areas. It's good for the economy. It's good for the families themselves. So thank you very much, and look forward to signing the documents. Thank you.
from the county. We wouldn't be this here today if it wasn't for the help of Jeff Schrader, who was our main go-to person for helping filling out the applications for the State Ag Fund Board. Thank you very much, Jeff, and your colleagues and that for their help and services. I mentioned about one past member on the county planning department was Don Mordini. And I never said this to any of the PDR committee members. When we first started going, Don Brown asked Don to come to our meetings and help us out. After we got going, we went to do our first signing, which was here on Montgomery's property. Don Mordini comes up to me, he goes, Ken, when I first started coming to your meetings, I didn't think you guys were going to pull anything off. You had the heart, but you didn't have the professional skills. And I go, that's because the help from you, Marilyn Brzezinski, Andy Stevens, Terry Gibb, Don Brown, and also Rich Harlow, who worked for the state at the time, helping us along. We had the heart, you had the knowledge, and you helped us form this. And this is where we are here today. Because the committee is a non-paying position. It's people there because they want to be there. They want to try and save some in this ag industry in the county. And some of those members are here today. I'd just like to point them out. You got Mike Philbrook from Bruce Township. You got John Ryan from Lennox. Terry Gibb from MSU Extension. And Jeff Schrader's on representing the county along with Don Brown. The other members, Vern Coleman from Richmond, Jonathan Yates from Richmond, Joe Dresena, supervisor from Ray Township, and Kathy Hunold from Lennox Township. These people come to the meetings on their own, and it's from the heart, and that's why I feel this committee was able to survive and go forward. As Don Brown mentioned, when we first started, there was, what the heck was it, 23 county commissioners at the time?
That was 26,
20,
25.
25.
The Italian Parliament.
We had to deal with it first, but we got the point across and made them aware, and they were interested to help out. Now we got the county executive, Mark Hackle, who's been real supportive in that. Mark, I'd like to have you come up if you would and say a few words if you wish, and I appreciate you dressing for the occasion.
Thank you, Ken. I got to tell you, this is what a exciting day. It's a great ceremony, but it's also a day of redemption. What do I mean by that? The reason why I'm wearing a tuxedo shirt as well as a bow tie is because of this gentleman right here. 433 days I've been waiting for somebody to do the same thing, because January of 2023, January 6th of 2023, we had one of these ceremonies right here. And when I walked in, I thought, you know what, farmland, just kind of dress the occasion. Jeans, boots, regular old shirt. This guy walks in for the first time I've ever seen in a three-piece suit with a tie. I mean, he was cleanly shaven, had just got a nice haircut. I think he might have a little dye job too. Pedicure. I don't know, he didn't take his shoes off, but he did have a nice French manicure going. And I'm looking at this guy thinking to myself, you have got to be kidding me. Ken the cook outdressed me at an event. I was just taken back by that, and it was sleepless nights for 43 days, and I thought to myself, you know what? Coming to this event today, I had everything laid out late last night, thinking, I'll be darned. Maybe I won't beat him this time if he does kind of wear a tuxedo with a top hat and cane and tails, but at least we'll be on an even playing field. So Ken, thank you very much for at least dressing down today and giving me my moment of redemption. With that being said, we do want to congratulate the Fuerstenau family. I say that because this has been mentioned here. Don did a great job of recapping, and Ken, the history of this and where we're at here in Macomb County is absolutely incredible. And you mentioned our planning department. I mean, that transition from when the Board of Commissioners had it to where we're at now, it's unbelievable what these folks do on behalf of businesses throughout the entire county. I mean, every business, but they have said, agriculture is one that sometimes doesn't get the attention it deserves. We talk about manufacturing, healthcare, and everything else, but the reality is there is a full court press on behalf of our planning department, and Jeff is leading the way on that to make sure that people understand the importance. And as Don had mentioned, not just the importance right now, but the importance into the future. We need only go back just a short time ago dealing with what we call that pandemic, and we come to the realization that there's a lot of talk about essential workers, and most of the attention went to nurses, rightfully so, as well as teachers, and obviously the other professionals in the medical field. But let's face it, the real essential workers at that time, we come to the realization, was the ag people that were working in the agriculture industry. I mean, that became obviously a time when people realized how important having that food provided to us was the most important thing. And preserving the land that we have here is incredibly important. I need to read off a couple of statistics because I think it's important to recognize. The latest statistics just came in, I guess, within a 5-year period, how we stand and what's happening here in Macomb County. And when it comes to farms, we have seen an increase in farms. 53 more farms we have recognized here in Macomb County, for a total of 457 farms in Macomb County. That's pretty significant. Most people wouldn't realize that statistic. If you ask people, threw it out there and said, how many farms do you think are in Macomb County? I don't believe anybody would even come close to that understanding of how many farms we do have here in Macomb County. Acreage of farms, and that's important. It's not just a matter of how many farms, it's the acres applied to it. And the actual increase was 5,666 in a 5-year period. 5,666. I use 5,667 because that 666 it just kind of throws me out a little bit. I don't know what the rest is. But again, that's the acreage part. And again, obviously the value of the products that are sold has increased $37 million for a total of $116 million. So that's important, but I got to tell you what's most important, and I think many of you in the industry recognize, and it goes across all industry sectors here in the county, and I think throughout Southeast Michigan State, is the big concern that we're seeing today is trying to find the talent. People working in this industry, and finding that workforce has become an incredible challenge for us. The average age of a farmer today is just over 56 years of age, and that's pretty interesting. Ken, you're almost there. You're getting close, but that becomes a big concern when you think about where we're at in the county. 440,000 people in the workforce. That's pretty high numbers, historic highs, and yet we have relatively low unemployment, and yet there's 45,000 jobs available in every industry sector. We know farming is one of them. So with that being said, that's another part of our commitment on behalf of our planning department, the Board of Commissioners, is to continue to try to figure out how do we attract people to your industry sector, so that you have the ability to do what it is that is necessary for all of us, and that's farm these lands and provide that product that people so need each and every day. So with that, I want to congratulate the Fuerstenau family. Thank you. Ken, I want to thank you for your leadership and the work that you do, and for all of you that have been involved in this process of making sure we're preserving farmland here in Macomb County. Congratulations to those 6 townships in the north end that came together, because no one has come together like this in the entire state like Macomb County has because of your efforts. So congratulations to all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and I believe in giving credit where credit is due. So, Mark, thank your wife for laying out that scene. Now, a lot of things happen, and one of the things is, like was mentioned way in the back, the township boards decided to do this. And to give credit to credit is due, I give credit to the current board members of the 6 townships for agreeing to continue on doing this, to supporting this committee with some funds to operate, but also when it comes time for the application, part of the application scoring is what's the commitment of the community? How committed are they? And the township's been willing to kick in some funds to help show that commitment and get us to where we're at. Because in the beginning, the money funds for it came from the PA 116 program where farms got out of being farmed and had to pay back taxes. Yeah, typical politics scams. You guys sell farmland to preserve farmland.
Why do you always complain to me about that?
Because,
You're looking right at me.
because you're the senior one here. You're just a few years older than me. And according to Mark, you're real young. But there's where your former representative Andrea LaFontaine and current state senator Dan Lowers, some things were done in Lansing to change some of the funding mechanism to kind of make it more stable. But unfortunately, it's not enough money because this last Ag Fund Board grant, I think there was 15 applications in there, and only 8 of them got funded because of the lack of funds. So there's means to try and improve on that part. And we're fortunate enough today to have State Representative Jamie Green here, if you care to come up. I know it's short notice, but we'd like to hear.
So if you took a bite of food today, it's because of a farmer. And I think people forget that when they're walking down Kroger and Meijer. And that is why it is so important that we preserve our farmland. And it is so important why I and many of my other colleagues in Lansing are fighting for that funding, sir. And as you know, we are in a battle right now in the state of Michigan, especially with farmland preservation. They're wanting to turn all that farmland into wind and solar farms, which I wouldn't really call them farms, and so it's so important that farmers continue to stand together and support each other and encourage each other in every way possible in our local communities, and that we preserve the farmland. Especially here in Macomb County, as a lifelong Macomb County resident, farming was always part of the culture because really the city stopped at M59 and then it was all farmland after that. And so it's so important that these northern 6 townships continue to stand together and to preserve the farmland. And I really appreciate all the work that has gone into this. And I especially want to thank the Fuerstenau family for this. And you guys are such an anchor of this community in Richmond. I mean, everybody knows the Fuerstenaus. And so thank you for this commitment and dedication that you are making for preserving your land.
One of the things I like to point out is, yes, it's nice, like was just mentioned about the farmland producing. It could be different types of farming. It doesn't necessarily, and I hope you don't get mad, it doesn't necessarily have to be soybeans, corn, and wheat. There's fruits and vegetables and nursery stock and different types of farming that can come out from all of this. But one of the benefits of the farmland too that's not recognized as much as it should be is the land can absorb water. Yes, it did a poor job last year because of all the rain. But just think what would have happened if all of Macomb County was paved houses and whatnot. There'd be a lot of water flowing down to the southern part of the county and having issues. And there's where I'd like to ask Candace Miller, the Public Works Commissioner, if she'd care to say a few words, because we're all interested in what you have to say.
I didn't even know he was going to ask me to speak. He says, hey, you got to come out here to Richmond Township Hall because Jimmy's going to get a presentation. He's doing the PDR, and it was so exciting. And I love the Fuerstenau family. And Phyllis, it is so darn good to see you, dear. Love this woman. But I'm sort of surprised you've asked me to speak, actually, after calling me the senior here. You know, I was just looking at this beautiful brochure. And here you see this lovely scene on the front. It sort of looks like a fall scene, right? And you know, in the fall when we have all of our pumpkins and the harvest and all of that. So, yeah, Goiki's laughing. A couple of years ago, I get this call, and somebody said, now in this job as a drain commissioner, somebody said, you know, look at this drain out here. It looks like the whole thing is orange. I go, you gotta be kidding. What in the world is in our drain? And so I said, get Goiki out. I said, look, we got this complaint. I don't know what these people up there, I don't know what's happening. Go take a look at this. So he goes out, he sends me these pictures back. He goes, you can't believe what's in our drain. There's there must be 1,000 pumpkins in here. And guess whose property it's on? Our old buddy Ken. So I called him, I said, what are you doing, man? He says, oh God, that was some of my agricultural workers, my seasonal workers on their way out. He goes, I didn't know anything about it. I'm gonna get them out of the drain. And I said, you can't believe how mad Ken Goike is at you right now. He goes, why? Just, but he says, I'm taking care of it. I said, no, he's mad because he just saw an 8-point buck out there and he didn't have his gun. That's really what he was mad about. But anyway, I'm delighted to be here just to say a few words. And I was just talking to Keith Ringert when I walked in, and I was here for the ribbon cutting in this building, right? With Gordon and Keith and so many others. 1999, hate to date myself as a senior here. That was a different job that I had at the time, but this particular program has a very special place in our hearts, right? It really does. And so it is fantastic that everything has come together. And really, I'm delighted just to be here to see how the program has evolved over all of the years, and as has been mentioned many times, I will just say again, certainly when you think of all the pressures that are on our agricultural community today to develop, right? Build a new subdivision, put a new strip mall, you know, so many other things, the weather, everything that happens in ag, that makes it so incredibly difficult. The younger people, maybe they don't want that job anymore, right? Now they think they all got to be computer specialists somewhere instead of working on the land, although it is interesting because they're coming back, right? I think they sort of did that. Now they're coming back, they recognize the significance and how important it is and how fulfilling it is, really, to be a part of agriculture, certainly. So I think that this is a fantastic program. It's something that has evolved, as has been talked about in so many ways, but I'm just delighted to be here. And I will just tell you one final thing here. When I was a member of Congress, Don Brown was my ag guy and worked with all of you so much. He went to get a cookie there. We gotta hurry up so we can get to the cookies. There used to be, Wayne Wood started a program called Dinner on the Farm, and Kenny and Jim and Gordon, so many others here were involved. But I had 5 counties that I represented in the first term, and then 6 in the second. But anyway, every one of the counties would do a round robin, and they would do this dinner on the farm. And it wasn't a fundraiser, but it was, as long as you were a member of the Farm Bureau, you could come to this dinner on the farm. And they would pick one farmer in their area at their farm to do the dinner. And of course, everybody wanted to go because they wanted to sort of show off their facility, right? I mean, you know what it can look like sometimes in some of the barns and that. I mean, you could have eaten off the floor when everybody showed up. But we would have, I don't know, 600-700 people come in the middle of nowhere lots of times every year. And I always talk to people in Washington about that. Many of the members of Congress that didn't have the honor of representing good agricultural districts, because I'd say, you know, these men and women who come to these dinner on the farm, these ag families, you don't have to know them. You could leave your grandchildren with any family there, not think twice. That's what I used to say about it, and I really did mean that. You didn't have to worry. Those were the greatest, and are the greatest Americans, the greatest patriots, the greatest environmentalists, right? These people talking about the environment, seriously? Live on a farm for a month. You're going to find out what the environment is all about, and who really cares about the soil, the earth, the air, the water, all of these kinds of things. So I'm just delighted to be here. Congratulations to Jim and Phyllis. You're looking great, dear. Just looking great. You've got all your beautiful family here today. Really great to see you all and everybody here. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Candace, for the nice words. This one is a little different in signing than our previous ones. The previous ones was just 2 entities. The person who owned the land, selling the developmental rights to the township and the state of Michigan. This one, we got a third party involved. And I like to point it out because it shows the different uses of this PDR program where somebody who would like to purchase it can work out, offer a purchase agreement with the property owner, and through different means, they come up with the funding to complete the deal with the township and the state. And this is what happened here with this one. Like I say, this program is, even though it's 20 years in the making, keep going, it's still got some new uses that are gonna come out and be realized and whatnot. So, again, I'd like to thank all the previous township board members for doing this and setting and keeping it going, and the current ones. And now I'd like to, Jim, if you want to come up,
Sure.
say some words and recognize the owners.
Thanks, Ken. And also, thanks for your leadership in this. You've been invaluable. In fact, I think along the way you said you get the biggest piece of cake afterwards, too. So everybody, make sure Ken gets the one reserved for him, okay? So I'd like to just talk for a little bit because I was very involved in farmland protection over the last 30 years. Be able to give you a little bit of background, kind of help understand the concept of what's exactly occurring right now. What is this all about? And then specifically to this project. In the early years, the early days, my gosh, that was 30 years ago, Mark, that you and I think after some meeting, we were talking in the parking lot, saying something needs to happen if we're going to farm here. And Joe Cucci, Joe here? Yeah, right back here. Joe, you were like the next conversation, and Kenny, you were the next. And here we had these young farmers that thought there needed to be a better solution. Rather than just accepting that development always moved mile by mile by mile and decimate the land, why don't we stake a claim that we want to produce food in here for Macomb County residents and people throughout the world? Why do we want to get rid of some of the best farmland in the nation without any thoughts to organizing how development occurs? So that got us going. That was our idea. That was our vision. We had a lot of discussion, a lot of learning. And we did. We started this Citizens for Quality Growth thing. And Mark and I, how many cities and townships did we go around and talk to and sit in on city council meetings and wait for our turn? And I will say, every municipality in the county of Macomb supported our vision and our concept, with the exception of, well, at least one. We never really went to the other one. After we went to the one, it was pretty powerful municipal government here in the county. Mark and I looked at each other and said, guess what? This might be a threat to some people. We don't want this to be a threat to some people. So we learned, and we learned how to maybe be more inclusive and show that this can be a partnership not only between the cities and the townships and the farmers, or not just between the farmers, but between all in the county. And so then shortly after that, we got going. And by the way, I still consider us young farmers, guys. Does anybody disagree? And Candace, it's not age, that's for sure. It's just that some of us have been on this earth longer than others. It's not that we're old, okay? All right. So John Hertel, he was the chairman of the County Board of Commissioners, and he decided he's going to start Partners in Planning, an ad hoc committee of government officials and citizens. And I called John up and I said, John, I understand there's going to be a land use subcommittee on this. I would like to serve on this committee. Wow, did I not know what I was asking for? Because I lost a few teeth in that activity because I learned that there were a lot of competing interests. And I'm coming in there kind of naive thinking this is a great thing. And others didn't necessarily share that vision right off the bat and wanted to make sure I knew they didn't share that vision. In fact, Mark, I served on that committee with your father, with Giancarlo Cantonacci, with Anthony Forlini, and many, many others, and great people, and it was a good experience, and I was able to go to the dentist and get some of the teeth put back in and learn from that activity. A lot of scars. And by the way, that document still exists. It was put on file with the county. The County Board of Commissioners did vote affirmatively for our recommendations on farmland preservation, with the exception of one. And that one was, we need to fund this at the county level. But what we had learned along the way was, land use happens at the local level, and that's when the Macomb PDR committee got going and took really the helm, and that's how it should have been from the start. We just didn't know any better. And so if you ever need to refer to that document, it does exist, it is. And I remember John Hertel felt so strongly about this, he gave up his chair at a county board commissioner meeting, chairmanship, to the vice chair. He went out into the audience and he spoke on our subcommittee report for farmland protection. He was a visionary. I talked to John, I invited him, He's in New York visiting with their daughter, but he was very happy for the invitation. So at any rate, I believe so much in this program that I, as a sixth-generation farmer in Macomb County, left the farm to strike out and do something different. I eventually ended up in Lansing, working for the Michigan Farm Bureau, creating a 501c3 nonprofit land use organization known as the Michigan Farmland and Community Alliance. Our task was to bring this information to farmers and townships, local officials, and citizens all over the state, and state representatives. And so we really had kind of a multi-faceted approach. We worked on public policy. I was a registered lobbyist. We had a farmland conservancy. We did conserve one farm. A farmer donated to the Michigan Farmland and Community Alliance. And when we stopped our activity, we then moved that to the state of Michigan to kind of watch after. Because, right, somebody has to make sure that the agreement is upheld, that you can't just start building houses and commercial buildings on that land. And then we had a very strong information and education aspect of what we did, and I went all over the state giving presentations to all different organizations. Then the Great Recession kind of took the polish off the need for farmland preservation for a while. Those of you that remember 2006 through 2009, there wasn't a lot of demand to go out and build new houses because we were all trying to figure out how to deal with a terrible economy and lower incomes. Progress was slow, but it was progress nonetheless. And again, a shout out to the key partners early on. And Ken, you've mentioned many of them. I just want to make sure I emphasize John Hertel, Candace Miller. In fact, Candace, it's been fun. I was not as long on this earth when we first got to know each other. And you had been involved in your township, I believe, as a trustee, maybe? And a supervisor in Harrison Township, correct? And from there, you went to the state legislature, or you went to Secretary of State from there. Yeah, you went to the U.S. You went to the U.S. Congress, didn't you? Yeah.
Went to Secretary
Secretary of State, then U.S. Congress. Got it. I got it in order just a little bit, sorry.
County treasurer.
County treasurer.
He's got a long resume.
And now, after all that, after being in the U.S. Congress, after being Michigan Secretary of State, you have a heart to continue to serve in your county drain commissioner. And we had a big problem last year with the rain, and your team has been awesome. So we really appreciate it. In fact, I'd like to give Candace a round of applause for her public service. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about the concept, because somebody in here last time with the Coleman preservation said, hey, I finally get what this is happening, what's going on here. So farmland preservation using purchase and development rights concept. How can this tool help? Agriculture is very capital intensive. Farmers have to pay a lot of money for more farmland, for machinery, for labor that occasionally throws pumpkins in the county drain. But anyway, it's a lot of money out. Hey, you opened up the door, Ken, I'm sorry. And Candace took advantage of it, it was great. But I don't know if any of you know, I'm sure the farmers in here know, but John Deere just unveiled their latest tractor. The tractor is a 9RX 830. It's an 834 horsepower tractor on 4 sets of tracks. And the suggested retail price is $1,388,585. Now, what accountant put the $585 on there? I don't know. Maybe just to make it seem more legit, I don't know. Maybe that tractor doesn't fit here in Macomb, but you get the idea, it's capital intensive. These investments for the farmers, they demand some level of certainty, or the farmers aren't going to make the investment. If all the neighbors to the farmer are selling out and parceling off all the land, that farmer knows there's a clock started and they don't have much time. So why would they invest in new equipment, in more land, only to know that eventually they're going to get squeezed out, that the agricultural dealerships will leave, the infrastructure will fall apart, and they won't be able to make a living doing it. So, PDR, purchase development rights, how does it work? It works like this. A cash payment is given to the landowner in exchange for the landowner restricting development rights on that land forever. Not just for that landowner's lifetime, but for every landowner that purchases that land from this point hence. So it's a weighty decision on the part of the landowner. And luckily, we have a program in Michigan. We have the 6-county program, 6-township program here in the county. That's where the funds are coming from, mostly from the state, and we also have county and township commitment, which is awesome. From 30 years ago, when Mark and I and Joe probably figured, and Ken, hey, we might be able to get this thing going in 4 or 5 years, it takes time, and we get that. So it's that partnership, and the partnership with the public is you folks, the citizenry. So this is not just between our farm, state of Michigan, and townships, it's between all of us. Once landowners in an area start enrolling land in this program, it's giving that certainty back to the farmers to make the investments necessary to stay here and provide that great food and produce that you're used to having here in Macomb County. And here's the other thing, and this occurred to me, especially Vern at your closing, and that is, this program changes the farming culture, the farming mindset. The mindset used to be, hey, if things got tough, we can always sell 4 lots off of that farm. Make a little money until next year, maybe the weather's better, maybe the crop's better. Or we're going to go buy that piece of farmland, I can't really afford what it's going for, so I'm going to put 5 driveways in, okay, to make sure we offset the cost and I'll just farm the back. But doesn't that seem maybe not as useful for that piece of property as it could be? And let's make the point here too. We're definitely not against development. From the beginning, we have wanted this to be voluntary, and we've wanted this to be that we're channeling development in maybe to the less productive lands. And Representative Green, you brought up, the point, what are we doing with this farmland? There's a lot of buildings around you can put solar panels on. You don't have to just dedicate huge, there's a 360-acre parcel in Marshall area, Marshall, Michigan, that's going into solar panels. And I will say, in the early days, I had a good friend. He was a couple generations older than me. We became good friends because we argued a lot on the Farm Bureau, at the annual Farm Bureau meeting. He didn't want anything to do with this purchase development. I said, you're dictating to future generations what they can do with your property. I said, well, you, by not engaging in some sort of planning and vision process, are doing the same thing. Sadly, he's passed, good guy. We respected each other, no problem. However, his property now is one of the big ones in Michigan that's up for consideration in the Lansing area to be a mega site for a company to come in and take all of his land. He amassed 1,000 acres of land. It's all going to be paved over, it's all going to be buildings, it's all going to be producing, I believe, some sort of computer chips or something like that. It's not a battery plant, this one I don't believe. So you know the one I'm talking about there up in Grand Ledge area. So I want to make so I guess my point is, if he and I were here today, we could each point to the other and say the same thing. You're dictating, by not planning, you're dictating by planning. Whatever, I like the result of this. And this happened because we had a great family, the Mickelson family, and they're here, Dwayne and Gary, and their wives, Mary and Mary, so that's easy to remember. In 2020, we purchased this land from their parents' estate. And I'm sure you guys remembered the conversation where I said, look, our goal is to not develop this property, it's to keep it like it was when you guys grew up on that farm. Now we've taken a few brush holes out, but that land is the land, just like when your dad farmed it years ago, and my grandpa farmed that land for a while too. And so we committed, we're going to submit an application to this program. We'll do it as long as it takes. And we were accepted the first year, the very first application we put in. And here's why they accepted us. Ken mentioned some points that were assigned to get us into the group that could get accepted for this. It's prime and unique soils. That's what we have here in this area. It's in an area that makes sense. It's already being farmed. It's not like almost ready to just be the next big development. It's close proximity to other land that's preserved. You've got the Coleman property, you've got the Stoney the township used to own, you've got the Montgomery property now, you've got the Mickelson property. And local government commitment. And boy, have we come a long ways from when I got my teeth kicked out at the county level to having some real smack in the game from the townships representing the public, that little bit of matching fund takes us way up in the scoring. So we just want to thank everyone in that local government commitment, especially Kathy, LaFontaine, and Vern helping to get this through, and the Macomb Ag PDR Committee, Ken, and the members, thank you so much for your help. The county, Jeff, thanks for your help. Expert help, by the way, that really makes us look good at the state level. Appreciate that. And we're just so thankful for everyone that has shared in this vision over these years. Charlie, I see you. You were very early in that. Keith Ringer, others. To make this day happen. To really get a foothold and get this program going. To say, we're staking a claim today that we're here to farm. And that's what we intend to do, because there is opportunity and people do want to do that. And we're pleased also that we can play a role in helping to create a legacy for the Mickelson family by preserving this acreage as is for generations to come. And with that, I'd like to invite Gary and Dwayne, if you'd like to come on up and say a few words, because you definitely saw the vision and we so appreciate it.
Okay.
Gary.
Mine's real short. I wanted to thank the Fuerstenau because they came up with this idea while we were looking at selling my parents' farm. So thank you for Doyle and Lois and preserving the farm and keeping it a farm. We grew up on it and it was great. So.
And you can drive by it and it's still
now I
there.
can still drive by it. See it.
All right.
Okay.
At this point, Mom, would you like to, yeah, let's give Gary, oh, Dwayne, you want to say something? All right, so the official owner of East Lawn Farm is right here. I'm just the businessman.
My family wants to thank everyone for coming here today. I'm just so pleased to see how many people are here. Doyle and Lois were good neighbors and good friends, and I'm here to pay a tribute to them. If needed help, they were there. Lois and I went to church events and many other things. We exchanged, of course, our products from our gardens. And Doyle was there to repair everything. He was a refrigeration guy and he could do most anything. Gary and Dwayne have been good to work with on the farm purchase. Dwayne worked for us on our farm. Connections run deep. We were pleased to help create this legacy for their farm. Thank you.
Thank you again. Okay. I got one more statistic that nobody's mentioned, and I hope, Mark Hackel, you'll use it in your next State of the County address for 2024. With this acreage, Macomb County has over 430 acres of preserved farmland. So hopefully you can add that on to your presentation and set up to a 1.5-minute segment on ag in the county, maybe make it 2.5 minutes. No, we appreciate all the help. And I'd like to thank everybody for coming and those who helped get us to this point. So now, all that's left now is signing the papers and making it official. We have some refreshments here, so if you wish, stay. And thanks again for coming. Thank you.